Welcome back to Jay All Day, everyone. I have a great baseball video for you guys. I'm going to break down the World Series between the Texas Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks. It was a heartbreaker for Astros and Phillies fans, two big favorites, both eliminated by the Diamondbacks and the Rangers. This should be a very competitive series, and I'm really excited to break down the entire 7-game World Series for you guys. Stick around. I want to go through each one of these teams, break down 3 reasons why each one of them can potentially win the World Series, give you my thoughts and my predictions about each one of these teams and what they need to do to win the World Series. Alright, first we're going to start with the Texas Rangers, who have never won a World Series in the history of their franchise. They're looking for number 1. Their coach, Bruce Bochy, has 3 rings at his time in San Francisco, and he's looking for number 4. He's already a Hall of Fame manager, but I think he's going to be able to manage this team to his 4th ring, and I want to show you some of the reasons why. Let's get into it. The first reason why I think the Texas Rangers can win the World Series is the depth of their lineup. If you check out their lineup on the screen, 1 through 9, there might not be a deeper lineup in Major League Baseball. We start with leadoff hitter Marcus Semien, who's a great defender, and for the postseason, he's struggling a little bit. So if Marcus Semien can get hot and get on base even more than he has been, that's going to set up a lot more for guys like Corey Seager, who is crushing the postseason. 15 for 45, 3 home runs, and 1,100 OPS. And then we move on to the 3-hole hitter, Evan Carter, another 300 hitter, 987 OPS, 5 RBIs, 1 home run. And then we have the king of the playoff mountain, Adolis Garcia, who's been the best player in this postseason by far. It's not even close. He's having one of the most historical postseasons in the history of Major League Baseball. Check out these stats, guys. 52 at-bats, 17 hits, 7 home runs, 20 RBIs, 1,100 OPS with a 327 average. OMG. Adolis has been absolutely remarkable. And then the 5, 6, and 7-hole hitters are no slouches either. You have Mitch Garver, 897 OPS. And then we have Jonah Heim, the catcher. He hasn't been so good, but he calls good games, and that is where his importance comes from. And then we move on to Nathan Lowe. And then we have Josh Jung, the third baseman, the rookie, 920 OPS. And then we have cleaning up the 9-hole spot with a 744 OPS and Leandro Taveras, the center fielder, who has 10 hits in 41 at-bats. The first 5, 6 hitters in this lineup are so good. And if Marcus Semien can start to get it going a little bit, they're going to score even more runs. But with Adolis Garcia hitting every pitch seemingly into the stands, the Arizona Diamondbacks pitched well against the Phillies, but I don't know how long that lasts for. They're kind of pitching out of their shoes a little bit, especially third starter Brandon Pfaff, who struggled mightily in the regular season, who pitched 2 gems against the Phillies to help Arizona get to the World Series. The second reason why I like the Texas Rangers in this series is the 3-headed monster with their starting pitching. You have Nathan Eovaldi, who's starting Game 1, Jordan Montgomery, who will start Game 2, and then Max Scherzer coming off injury for Game 3. If they can get Max Scherzer right to pitch into the real Max Scherzer, man, it's tough sledding to go against the 1, 2, and 3 stars. Let's take a look at the numbers real quick. Nathan Eovaldi, oh my goodness, 4-0 in the postseason, 2.42 earned run average, and a .96 whip. He's not giving up a lot of hits. He's not walking a lot of guys. In 26 innings pitched, he's got 28 strikeouts. That's a great ratio. And then let's move on to Jordan Montgomery, the true ace of this team. 3-0 in the playoffs, 2.16 earned run average, a 1.28 whip, 25 innings pitched, 17 strikeouts, and a good, solid left-handed pitcher to break up the righties of Eovaldi and Max Scherzer. I think breaking it up a little bit is going to be huge for them because because the Arizona Diamondbacks are not particularly great against left-handed pitching. Ranger Suarez had a ton of success against them in the postseason for the Phillies. And if somehow Max Scherzer is able to channel all that Max Scherzer crazy man energy and pitch well in his Game 3 start, that will give this starting rotation a lot of length and potentially set up a Game 4 and Game 5 where the number 1 and number 2 guys can get back into pitching for them to potentially win this series. Max Scherzer is so important for this team to win this series. If Max Scherzer does not pitch well and doesn't go deep into games and has the Texas Rangers bullpen pitch more innings than they should, they could struggle later in games because Texas's bullpen is definitely the weakest part of their team. The third and final reason I think the Texas Rangers can win the World Series is really a two-headed monster. It's Bruce Bochy and the resilience of this team. They lost a gut-wrenching Game 5 to the Houston Astros, but Bruce Bochy was able to manage his team and get them in a position to win Game 6 and 7 on the road in Houston, which was extremely impressive. Bruce Bochy does such a good job at managing games and keeping them in situations where they can be successful. And I like Bruce Bochy's experience, those 3 World Series rings, to help them get a 4th ring for Bochy and the first ring in Texas Rangers history. Before we move on to why the Arizona Diamondbacks could win the World Series, I want to give you some stuff to look out for. There was a great article on ESPN that brought up some statistics from previous series that could play out in the World Series. The first thing is Adolis Garcia, with all his home run mashing and driving in runs, he hasn't walked at all whatsoever. So he's been very, very aggressive at the plate. And in this Arizona Diamondbacks series, we could see them kind of pitch around him and see if that aggressiveness can lead to some strikeouts. I mean, he did walk 65 times this year, so he's not completely allergic to walking, but he's been so aggressive in the World Series. Arizona's got to kind of counter that by pitching him out of the zone and make him swing at pitches out of the strike zone. This is really interesting too. As exceptional as he is at framing pitches, Rangers catcher Heim could be tested by Diamondbacks base runners. The Diamondbacks stole a lot of bases against the Phillies, and they were more aggressive on the base path, and I think that helped them win the series against the Phillies. Heim has a strong arm, but the transfer time between his glove and hand is well below average and leads to pop times that are significantly lower than 50% of catchers in Major League Baseball. So if they get good jumps, Arizona could get some stolen bases and force Texas's hand and be aggressive like they were against the Phillies. And then here's another really interesting statistic. It says more than 70% of Rangers' 63 innings in the AL Championship Series were thrown by only 5 pitchers. So the bullpen hasn't really had to pitch a lot. That's great for Texas, but will that hold up? So if Arizona wants to be successful in this series, they got to take some pitches, get these starters out of the game, and try to capitalize on a weak Texas Rangers bullpen. Okay, let's move on to Arizona. The first reason why I think the Arizona Diamondbacks have the potential to win the World Series against the Texas Rangers is the strength of their bullpen, specifically the back end of that bullpen. Setup man Kevin Ginkel, 1-0, 8 games pitched, 9 innings, .89 whip, 0 runs given up. He's been absolutely unhittable, and his performance against the Phillies was remarkable. And then even better is their closer, Paul Sewald, who was traded over from, I think, Seattle. He's also 1-0, 8 games, 8 innings pitched, 11 strikeouts, a .50 whip. He's been even better. And guess what? Another 0.00 earned run average. The back end of this bullpen has helped them get to the World Series. And for them to win the World Series, they have to be just as good. The next reason why I think the Arizona Diamondbacks have the potential to win the World Series is the 1-2 punch at the top of the lineup between Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll, who are great on the bases. They hit for extra bases. They steal bases. They hit for a good average. They get on base. They take their walks. This team will win or lose depending on how Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll do at the top of this lineup, because the rest of the lineup, they've had some timely hitting, but they're not great necessarily baseball players. And if Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte can have success, that will lengthen their lineup a little bit and give some confidence to the 3, 4, and 5 hole hitters for the Arizona Diamondbacks. But if Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte don't get on base, they're not stealing bases, and they don't put pressure on the Texas Rangers, they're going to struggle to score runs. They don't have the firepower that the Texas Rangers do. They don't hit a lot of long balls, even though they had some timely long balls against the Phillies. That's not necessarily how they're built. So Corbin Carroll and Ketel Marte have to continue to be successful if they want to win the World Series against Texas. The final reason why I think the Arizona Diamondbacks have the potential to win the World Series is because of confidence. Baseball is a confidence-driven game, and momentum plays a big part in who wins and who loses in October. For them to go to Philadelphia to win 2 must games in games 6 and 7 with that insane crowd, to be able to score runs, to steal bases, to play good defense, and to pitch well was extremely impressive, man. They didn't bat an eye in that hostile environment. In Texas, it'll be crazy, but it won't be as crazy as it was in Philadelphia. So playing on the road will not be a big deal for Arizona. And if they could stay cool, stay confident, and play Arizona Diamondbacks baseball, I think they have a great chance of beating the Texas Rangers and winning the World Series. Finally, I'm going to give my prediction on who I think is going to win the World Series between the Texas Rangers and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Guys, I just think the Texas Rangers have too much firepower for Arizona to keep up with. Arizona played really well against the Phillies, but I think the Phillies lost that series more than Arizona won it. They should have got swept. Craig Kimbrell blew 2 saves in games 4 and 5. They should have won those games. The Phillies beat themselves. Craig Kimbrell blew it, and Arizona was able to claw and fight their way back into the series and ultimately knock off a better Phillies team. Now, that might have took a lot out of their team. I just can't see guys like Brandon Paft, who are 6 earned runs over the length of an entire season, to continue to pitch pretty much unhittable baseball. I just don't see that happening. And the back end of that Arizona bullpen has been perfect. Those 2 guys at the back end of the bullpen haven't even given up 1 single run. And that's just not sustainable. It's really not sustainable. And Garcia has been so good, man. And this lineup, pretty much 1 through 7, can hit bombs. They can hit doubles in the gap. If Max Scherzer can pitch well out of that 3 slot, Arizona is going to have an uphill battle. Like we said before, Arizona's got to win some games on the road. They can't go down 0-2 again to a team like Texas. You can't keep clawing your way out of those deep holes that they dug themselves into. And Arizona's lineup is just not that good. They're really not. They don't have a ton of power. I mean, they are pesky. They do get on base. They steal bases. They do hit and runs. They had a lot of success doing that against the Phillies. I just don't know how sustainable that is. They won 84 games this year. I mean, I think Texas only won like 87. They're not much better. But Texas is very streaky. So if they get on a hot streak, I like the Texas Rangers here. 6 games, Texas Rangers are World Series champions, and they bring that first World Series ring to Texas. Let me know in the comments below, guys. Did you like this video? Did you like my breakdowns? Who do you think is going to win the World Series? I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Thanks again for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace!